Welcome to the new Sandcrawler Workshop. I'm your host, Roger Smith, and I think I'm going to get a new project started, but I haven't sure what I'm going to do. But here's where I start on anything, for the most part. This is my table for sheet material. When I bring home 4x8 sheets, they just go on here and I pull them out and cut chunks off of them as I need them. And it really makes a good work table too because it's large, and when I'm not cutting things, I pile it up, and it's always piled up. I just got done cleaning it off because I think I'm going to cut some of this 1/2 inch board. Yeah, I'm going to make something out of this 1/2 inch particle board, but I'm not sure what. But this is what I use on my sheet material. The old skill saw. This thing is 30 years old. It's made in USA. That's why it's 30 years old. And as much as I cut, it's going to last me the rest of my life. I mean, it's just as good as the day I pulled it out of the box. And I'm going to use a very long 6-foot measure as my straight edge. So I put this down, and then I just use a couple clamps and clamp it in. And when you make your measurement, you go 1 5/8 inches longer, because that's the width on here, and it works really good. And then from here, I take it over to the table saw or compound miter saw to shrink it down. Trying to get a piece, even this a 1/2 sheet, anything. Well, yourself, it's crazy if you try to do it on the table saw because you will hurt yourself. And I thought about having my son come out and, well, do it. No, that ain't a good idea either. If you can do anything other than use the table saw to cut your sheet material, use it, because you will save yourself a lot of grief. So I trim it all down with this, and then I rearrange my table so it's somewhat flat, and then I'm ready to move on. This is what I've decided to make. No, not the whole shelf, but just the command center. I'm doing a tutorial on the whole thing with pictures from the old days. I have no videos on this because it was a long time ago. You couldn't really upload anything back then, so everything was done with pictures. So I'm finding pictures and I'm trying to put it together, and when I get bored, I want to make something real. So I'm going to make these, just the command centers. I'm probably going to make 3 or 4 of them if anybody wants one. But it won't be well, I'll show you. It's actually going to be better than this one. I'll show you where I got the other one that I'm going to copy off of. Okay, this is the one I'm going to model it off of. I have 2 of these. They're like bookends. They're exact opposites. But I'm only going to do this part of it. This has LED lights in it. The other one has the big light box on top, and it's got fluorescent lights in it. LEDs, they were available back in the day, but to tell you the truth, they weren't cheap. And fluorescent was a lot cheaper. So I made all my old light box dioramas with fluorescent lights. Now, this is the whole kit and caboodle, but I'm only going to do this. And ignore up here, that's for future shock. It's supposed to be behind the green curtain, but it ain't anymore. But this is what I'm going to copy it off of. And say we'll have lights in it. And hopefully it'll probably be a little larger, but enough to put a number of figures on, and you could even make a shelf out of it, because the original one was made to go on a shelf. The first 2. This is actually number 4 of the series. So we will start on number 5. Ah, there we go. It's the next morning. It is April 24th, 2025, and I'm out here and thought of a few things that I got to do before I start this project, and part of it is to start this project. I realized when hearing last night, everybody's warning, tariffs are coming in, blah, blah, blah. So I thought I would do an inventory on all my electronic stuff, since it's all pretty much made in China. And I'm testing out this. See? Wow, that's cool. It follows me. just to see. None of this stuff is ever going to get made in this country. And if it is, I will pay twice as much for it. I will pay almost twice as much for anything if it's made here instead of China. But it isn't, and so this stuff will probably go up. I don't know. I'm going to resupply some of my LEDs and my power supplies and things like that. But I'm working on this, which is the bottom of the project. This is the size of the ones I've made before. It's like 20 by about 9 1/4 or something to go on a shelf. But I'm going to go bigger since this is going to be a standalone, like my first ones were a little bit. And I got to make some of these. And how I'm sizing it has to do with this. Literally a box. Believe it or not, prices on boxes, if you get the right size, can be very reasonable. If you get the wrong size, they can be very expensive. And that also goes into shipping. So I check shipping for size, weight, and I will make adjustments to try to make it easier to ship. So I'm going to make this one. This is 20 wide, 12 high, and 14 inches deep. So instead of the 9 1/4, I'm going to go out almost towards a foot on this one. But I think that's what I'm going to do. Because it gets ridiculous. Go on Uline and look. They even have it in red on the lines, other than black, of the sizes that they really want you to buy. Because they're a lot cheaper. So I'm not going to distort something, you know, just for that. But if you can, you know, move it an inch here, you know, an inch there, half an inch, and get it into a better box, it's a lot cheaper. And a lot of it has to do nowadays with weight, everything. So I look into everything, but I think I'm going to make it a little larger than those. So that is the start. Now we'll move on. Here we go. Well, I'm cutting some sheet material. I'm doing the 1/2 inch board first, the particle board. And when I do this, I have to go through a little routine or I'll screw things up. It never fails. First, I use a strip of board and I elevate the piece that I am cutting because I want to cut through one sheet, not 4 sheets. So, and then I take it and I measure like this and I get it to where the round part of the blade is right about the bottom. So just the blade is sticking down. And I got it all measured off. I have to add 1 1/8 inches. So this cuts where I want it to go, and this rides along the straight edge. So I've got that in my brain, 1 5/8. I have a centralized dust collection system back in the corner where it's a little less noisy, and almost all my tools are hooked up to it. This is one I can't get to, or it would be a pain in the butt. So, it's time to make some dust. I've got the depth done at 20 inches. That's too much for the radial arm saw. It doesn't go that deep. So I got to cut these up into 12-foot pieces. Well, there's a foot, but this stuff is really heavy. And to show you I do practice what I preach, I'm not going to cut it here because this is really heavy. Particle board is 49 inches wide rather than 48 for regular plywood. Now, if I was doing Luan, which is 1/4 inch floor underlayment, I use a lot of that. I would do this, maybe 1/2 inch particle board, but this 3/4, this stuff's heavy. And I could probably get it through there okay, but if I twist it, I'm gonna booger up some pieces. I hate boogering up pieces. So I'm gonna take the safety route and go and cut. I'm getting ready to cut the base on the bandsaw. And if you can see, I hope that's, everywhere that the points go into their deepest, I put a relief. And what that does is it gives me a sharper edge, because otherwise I have to back out or I have to round it going into the next angle. So I just cut those out first, and then I'll go down and cut all the other edges. You can see how it gives that sharp edge. And I cut into it. Another thing is, I love this thing. This thing's got to be ancient. I'll bet it's 75, 80 years old. It clips on, and it's just got a bulb on it. And the bottom pulls out, and you can hook it on things, but just by the looks of it, it is really, really old. I use it here, and it's great. It's cheap. I didn't have to pay anything for it. Next, I got them all done, cutting them for the faces. I don't sand these. I'll clean them up a little bit, but I like that carved edge look. That's part of the Hoth look. It's very rough. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to make a step from here to here. I'll make the steps with the this is a rabbit bit for a router, and I'm putting it in my router table. And I bought this set, and it is great because you can change the bearings on the top to make any size, all the way up to a 1/2 inch step, all the way down to barely any step at all. And it's called a rabbit edge, not rabbit boing boing, rabbit. So there is a difference. So I'm going to put this thing together, and I'm going to hook it up, and we're going to make some noise. Even though this is particle board and it's really soft, I could probably do this in one swipe, but bouncy can mean bad things on your fingers. So I'm going to go ahead and do it in 2 steps to get up to where I need to go. This thing is really loud. Now you saw a lot of dust coming off of there. When you freehand, that's just what's going to happen. I built this for dust collection. And if you're using the fence and you got it up over the blade, it eats it up a lot. I need to put something underneath to take the rest of it out. But I'll have to hand make that. I've seen ones for sale, and they're not exactly cheap, and all the reviews aren't very good on them. I think I could make one myself a lot better. But yeah, it's dust city and noise city when you use this thing. Well, I have all 4 done, and I have decided to do something I have done on projects in the past. I'm making bookends out of them. So there will be 2 rights and 2 lefts, depending on which side I decide is right and left. But that would be really cool. And with these, of course, with everything I sell, I give out unless it's something really small, I give out a certificate of authenticity. hoping I'm putting it somewhere up here so you can see it now. And I think it looks really cool. I didn't do that. Dan Eversdyke from up in the North Woods of Wisconsin did that. He made that for me. He was with sandtroopers.com. So it was quite a few years ago he made that for me. And I love it. It looks absolutely great. And who knows, if I get famous and die and it's worth some money, that might really help on what you could sell it for. But yep, we're done with this, and now we're gonna go on. I'm gonna go ahead and do the risers to hold the top on first, and then I'm gonna make the tops. So, because I'm gonna try to make it a little taller, probably 1 inch to 1.5 inches. But I'm gonna see what it looks like. I'll cut them 1.5 inches longer, and I'll set it all up, and if it looks funky, I can just chop them off and put them back to where the originals are. So that's where we're at. Now to make the columns, this is what I did before. This is 1 1/4 by 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna go with almost like a real column. I'm gonna make them square, 1 inch squares. And I'm gonna make them 17, cut the stretches 17 inches long, because I can make 2 out of each one. And I'm making them double length because I'm gonna need to run them over the router table, because I need like a little dado through here, and that'll take the decals, which I'm putting up a picture of, I hope, will lay down in there really nice, and around the corners just a little bit. But let's see what we got going here. Time to make a lot of noise again. Out of a 2x4. Now that I got, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I should wear this more because I got allergies anyway, but now that I got the columns roughed out, and they're really roughed out, they need to be really slick. And when you do a little bit thicker wood, this is what you can end up with. I don't spend $500 on a blade, and these probably need to be cleaned. But this is my jointer, and I'm going to use it to clean this up, though I don't have near the sanding to do. I did do a check to make sure. This can tear stuff up, including fingers. It's the only thing I've ever boogered a finger up on, believe it or not, and always have this on. Always. So let's run it through and see what it looks like. Now you can see that makes it a lot slicker. It'll be a lot less sanding to do. So I dreaded this all morning long, but because I would think, like most woodworkers, the thing you hate the most is sanding. So I'll do everything I need to do to try to do as least bit of sanding as possible. And I'm getting pretty good at it. Well, here's my little niche of horror, my sanding station. It's going to need some big improvements. What I'd really like to get is a drum sander. I would love a drum sander. I thought about it in the past. They're starting to get expensive. But if I can make enough money, I'm going to buy one. Because if I'm going to be making more parts and doing more things, I'm really going to want one. I didn't do that much sanding where I really could justify the cost back in the day. But right now, I think I can. So I'm going to get these all sanded down real quick. And this isn't attached to my dust collection system. It's got a shop vac underneath. And I made this table just specifically for that. It's got holes in it, a series of holes, and it actually does a fair job, but it's really noisy. So I'm going to get this thing started and make some noise and some dust, a little. Next, I'm going to round off the corners on the columns. On my router table, I've installed my combination half round, quarter round bit. And I've moved my fence up and hooked up the dust collection. It's got a bearing on it. And if you're doing, rounded things and stuff like that, freehand it. But I went ahead and set this up because this will suck all the dust completely out of it. This works really good. And one of the best things I like about my hobby is I build my own, as much of my own stuff as I can. I built this, and as we go around the shop on different things, I have built a lot of jigs. I built assembly jigs. I've got assembly jigs that I've dug up that are so old I forgot to mark them, and I have no idea what I was assembling with them. But I don't get rid of them because someday I'm going to run into the same thing and I'll go, oh, there it is. So let's get going on this. If you noticed on that last clip, I kind of hesitated a couple times. And this is an adjustment I've needed to do for a while. And it is, take this file and file off the front side. I don't have to worry about the back because everything goes through this way. On occasions, sometimes I'll go forward and backwards if it's something that, just to clean it up. But this is needed to be done, so I'm going to file this thing down so it won't hang up. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's still frustrating when it does. So we'll just get her done. Well, the dust has got the better of me. And every time I've done one of these projects that made a lot of dust, I'm like, I'm going to fix something up really good. But then I make what I needed to make and I move on. Well, this was the time. So I built this attachment, extended this attachment. That actually came with the router table. but it hooks up to the fence back here. Well, I need it for free handing to come way out here. So I built an extension, drilled a hole in the backboard, and that'll get the top. And underneath, I have an old shop back. And let's see if I can get up in there where you can see it. And I bought this piece from Amazon. I had to do some adjustments on it, but it works pretty good for now. I'm eventually going to build a box under here. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. But for now, this will work. So we're going to get going. Well, now that I got the dust collection, obviously, because here is the new one I have, here is the old one. So I'm literally producing 40% more dust, and it was choking me. So hopefully that will take care of hopefully 80 to 90% of the problem. So what I do is I made another jig, and I put it on top of a blank, and I'm going to draw it out. And after I draw it, I need to drill holes, 2 holes in each one, so I can drop my saber saw down in there and cut it close. And I'm using a flush cut bit over here on the router table to smooth them up. That also will make a lot less dust. So hopefully this will all work right. So I need to draw these out, start drilling and cutting. Now, as you see, just drilling the holes, it creates a lot of debris. But the thing is this is large debris, and it doesn't go very far. If you look around, there's nothing on anything else but this. And when I cut, it won't go very far because that doesn't really, just moves up and down, so it doesn't really send it very far. The problem with this is it's a spinning blade, and it throws things everywhere. It will be 10 feet away. All the floor, anything within 10 feet is going to be covered with debris. You know, just, it's bad. Now I got the holes cut. I got the blank raised up. And I always check to make sure that the blade is not going to hit whatever is below it. Give a little test, and we're ready to go. It needs lip service. This thing is so old, it has no blade guide. And it has no little puffer that new ones have. So you got to kind of blow on it to move the sawdust out of the way so you know where you're going. And if you go slow, it cuts pretty accurate. I wouldn't cut anything over 3/4 of an inch with it because it's not going to stay straight. It just, I say it's an old one, and for what I use it for, it works fine. If I was into more fancy stuff, and you know, I say it's got to be 3/4 or less, and it's got to be something soft. You try to cut 3/4 oak or another hardwood with it, and it won't cut straight at all. But for what I do, it works, and this thing is 30 years old, like not everything else I have. Uh-oh, I hear something clanking. Yep, got a wasp. Nothing unusual in here. Well, got them all cut out. Yeah, I don't, tidy isn't nothing because they're all going to get cleaned up on the router table. you can see how much dust this creates. That's the kind of dust over there, but there's not near as much. And it's right here. It's not everywhere else. Because I say that thing just goes up and down, so it throws everything right here. Now I'm going to move over to the router table and hope my new design on dust collecting works. Okay, I got the blank attached to the template, and that is a flush bit. And that ball bearing, let me see if I can move this over, will ride up against there and make it flush with wherever it's going, so that'll make nice smooth edges and just a little bit of sanding, and that'll be ready to go. So we're going to give this a try. Wish me luck. That worked real well. I looked down, there wasn't a whole lot of dust. I probably got better than 90%, which is pretty good. But then I discovered, I put my hand under here, and I went, man, that could be a little better. And I look up, I left the gate open on the joiner, so I was only getting half the suction out of here I could have had, or it might have eaten every damn bit of it up. I'll find out next time I use it, but this is the last one. And it turned out really well. I'm very happy with that. Well, here's where we're at. Got the base roughed out. Pretty much done. Because I say I don't get it real smooth. I like that carved look. And I got the bottom part of the lighting panel. And I got the columns. Next, I need to make the cross members. I've been debating on the height. These are going to come down at least some, because once I add that, I think it'll look way too tall. I want to give it room so you can really see under it. In the movie, it looks like the ceiling's fairly low, but I don't want it looking ridiculously high, but I want better visibility, so we're going to make the cross members next.